Welcome to the video. My name's Jodie Knight. You can find me over on eToro under the username Jodie Slaney. For some reason, they won't let me use my actual name, even though I've been married. But less of that, more of the portfolio here. We've had a pretty good rebound so far since the Japan carry unwind and all the market fears and all the bits and bobs that really drag things down. It's currently sitting at a very nice 11.88%. This isn't bad. I think, considering most of my top positions haven't made a move yet, I'm pretty happy with this. I'm expecting the bigger move for my portfolio to be probably later in the year now or 2025. Initially, I thought it would come probably about now, to be honest, but it doesn't seem to be happening. I did expect rate cuts to come in a bit earlier, but that's kind of been pushed back a little bit. So timing's not great, but we're not too bothered about timing, being that we're a long-term investor. We're more worried about building a thesis that we can trade around and really building our positions out into what we are comfortable with. So overall, not bad. But we'll take a look at the charts. Pretty much everything rebounded except Bitcoin and CleanSpark. So actually surprised that didn't bounce a little bit more when we went more risk on, but we'll take a look at the charts for those later on as well. In this video, we'll take a look at the charts for my core position. So currently that's still PayPal. Nothing's really changed there. It's pretty much flat. So far, probably the one that's had the biggest pullback. So we'll take a look at that. But I think it's had a pretty good bounce as well, because it was much worse than that. And then Tesla, still a heavy weighting. CleanSpark as well, we'll touch on that. Ideally, I want to get these back above 10%. I think if the market recovery keeps going as it is, these might end up edging back above 10% before my monthly deposit. But if they haven't, these are the stocks that I'll likely focus on. During the last few weeks, I have been bolstering my Redfin position, Zillow, TNA. I took some of the gains from TMF and shuffled some things around. I think I added to Carnival Corp as well. So been making some changes, nothing huge, especially not during the pullback, because especially when it's such a broad pullback with everything coming down, it's really hard to rotate profits when there are no profits to rotate. So not been doing too much exciting. I did where is it? Open a TQQQ position, mainly just to capture that it seemed like it was going to be a bit of a panic sell-off. So glad to see that doing nicely. Probably keep that open until we make a new high on the QQQ and then just close it out. I only really like to swing trade this from any lows. So it's not a position you want to hold for a long term, given that it's leveraged. First up, we've got PayPal. I'm actually starting to get very excited about PayPal, so much so that when I was on holiday, I actually had a dream that it popped off and it hit 100 in a few days. Pretty disappointed when I logged on and saw that it hadn't. I thought I was having a premonition, but unfortunately not. But we have had a nice little gap up here, and we're above this historical resistance, which is excellent to see. Now pushing on this little top here, wanting to fill the gap. This gap's been going on for a while. I've talked about it a bunch of times, but really we're not going to get super bullish until we confirm this as a support level. We did have a little wick down here, so hopefully this level holds. It's possible we get a little backfill to here, but nothing major. I mean, it's a very minor move that would be a couple of percent, so not even worth really taking a trade on that. We are getting a little bit overbought on the RSI, so a little pullback here wouldn't be too much of a shock. And then the Golden Cross is nicely opening. Institutions coming in. Retail's been washed out. Flow is good. Looking pretty bullish here. But again, might need a little bit of a cool off to store up some energy. We've had a hell of a move from these lows. Yes, we did have this sell off, but from that low, 18%, that's quite a large move for PayPal. Taking a look at the weekly then, we'll just hop straight over. Let's resize this a little bit. Pretty bullish move there. 3 nice green bars. We did have the wick down here on all the market fear, so it's not really related specifically to PayPal, so I'm not too concerned about that. We did hold nicely above this bull market band, and again, we're now out of this range and testing it. So anything that confirms this as support is a thumbs up, in my opinion. RSI is getting a little hot, but not too much. We still have this death cross. It still looks like it wants to come together. So I think the rest of the market's probably going to get more bullish when this switches over, and then flows are only just turning over. So there's plenty of room for upside on this if it wants to run, but a little bit of a cool off isn't anything to panic about. It's not the end of the world. Earnings were good. Fundamentally, this company is sound, and it's a bargain price right now. So we like that. We're very happy with our position on this one still. Looking at the short dated open options interest, we've got this $70 resistance level here. That's about halfway through the gap fill that's way back here, but it is the local high resistance, so it makes sense why people are looking at that to take some profits on that one. And then if we take a look out, the targets are starting to disperse a little bit, but for the most part they're within that gap here historically between $72 and kind of $67, so it makes sense. I'm not surprised by any of that. The support here at $57. I mean, I don't see us ever really getting back down there, but if we did, I might actually be tempted to buy more. Earnings was great. Really happy with how the new products are going. I can't wait to see what happens when those products hit the bottom line of the balance sheet. I think good things are coming. Margins are going to start improving, especially as ads gets going. So all looks pretty bullish. Even short term, I think looks good on here. But let's take a look at the 2025 January ones. Still looks good. Nothing's really changing. 140, 145 still the resistance level there, but a lot of it at 100, which is currently my fair value. So anything in this under 70 range is an absolute bargain. That's a lot of upside, a lot of alpha there for you. 2026. Again, 95 kind of resistance level. So as rates come down, I expect PayPal to do very well. Can't wait to be able to take some gains on that one just for a bit of vindication. Again, SoFi's also had a nice rebound here. The sell-off from the fears was a bit much, a bit of a panic. I probably should have bought more shares, to be honest, but I kind of missed the boat on that one. I don't really want to add too much more. I think it's going to pop back up fairly swiftly above this volume shelf, so I'm not too concerned about adding more to this one. Fundamentally, again, the company's doing sound. They're absolutely nailing it. All the bear arguments have kind of been put to bed, so I'm not sure why there's still a lot of short interest in this one. I think time's going to prove them wrong. But mainly on the daily chart, we've had a little resistance from this bull market band. It's a very thin one, so I expect that we could have a nice push above this and turn it into support, especially this historical resistance level. So getting over that would be a pretty decent area, and then building up some momentum to make another push higher, maybe on the run up into earnings as the macro gets better. But we've definitely seen that these financial companies are pretty much tied with whatever is happening with fear and recession. The more people worry about recession, the more these companies are going to sell off, which makes sense. But fundamentally, the company is fine. They're strong. I don't see any issues there, and I'm happy to catch some of the gains from that. RSI is neutral. Death cross. It looks like it wants to curl back and close, which is positive. We did have the bottom catch here as well, which is a nice bullish signal. So I'm pretty bullish on this pattern. It looks good. It looks like it wants to reconfirm higher, and flow is kind of flat. So I'd like to see a bit more come in there. So overall, the daily looks good. And if we pop over to the weekly, I'll resize it a bit for you. Mainly, I want this stock to move just so I can make the chart look a bit better, to be honest. It's so crowded. It's annoying having to show you all this one. But again, the weekly chart looks fairly bullish. Looking at the same levels pretty much. We had the tweezer top here, kind of not exactly a tweezer top, but we'll take it. And ideally, we want to see it confirm this as a support, this blue line here. If we can do that before next earnings, and then they can nail next earnings after a rate cut, that would be pretty good. I expect this stock to move quite substantially if that happens. So we'll see. On the weekly though, RSI's flat, Death Cross is coming back together pretty nicely. Couple more bullish days and I think that's going to pop. We had the oversold marker here, which was pretty accurate, and the golden bar. And then obviously this is the market pullback, which really nailed this one. But before that, the signal looking pretty good. I don't think I've previously mentioned it, but my current fair value for SoFi is around this $14, $15 mark, pretty much where the capped call limit is. Mainly that's to do with the senior notes offering and the model that I've built out, as well as I think the CEO is very well incentivized to get these levels and even higher. So I think as time goes on, I'm going to have to raise my fair value on this one quite significantly. So that's definitely something to be aware of. But currently, this is where it's sitting, and I don't really want to sell out much of my position until I get to that. I've got a few trim levels picked out, but for the most part, I've trimmed a bunch at these levels already. So I don't really want to trim until we get now to this 1160 range, which, if we take a look, measure that, that would be a 66% gain. So, I mean, it makes sense to take some risk off at that level, especially if we're going to be setting on primary target at about 107% return. So we don't want to keep all of our position into that, because that's a lot of risk that will be added, and the position will become too oversized in my portfolio. So it's good to rotate some of those gains into other stocks. But yeah, that's my target for that one. Moving on to the open options interest, we've got this $7 level. That's pretty much where we're at. So we could get a little pullback here, a little bit of resistance, but that fades away if we can break over it. That's for next week. But the week after that, again, 7. It's also the resistance level, support level, sorry, as well. So it's going to break either way, and it's gonna get stuck on the next level at 650 or 750. So just out of curiosity, let's take a look a further week out. Not too much exciting happening there in the near term then, so it looks like maybe we are going to be waiting for the next quarter to happen. Obviously, I think this is going to change. These levels will change drastically if rates get cut or we have any really supportive data. Let's take a look out to January 2025 then. Still looks good. People still expecting good things from this. We're at the resistance level here and support. So it's going to break away either way. I expect it to be bullish because I think this is insanely cheap at the moment still. And $10 they're going to be the resistance. I think this, if rates come down, this is going to start moving up. We could see $12 start to get more volume on that area. But then again, if we look out to 2026, pretty much the same. So I don't think too many people are too interested in this stock, given that it's a financial company. But I think this could change as rates come down. So it's worth keeping an eye on the long dated ones for that one. Moving on to Tesla, my favorite Marmite stock. It's holding pretty well here. It's actually starting to look really bullish again, which surprises me. I thought this one would be slapped down a little bit more. But yeah, we're wanting to grind back up to this resistance level. We've had a wick down, but I think we could actually pop above this and turn this back into support again, which I think the bulls will love and the bears will moan about. Given in my opinion, if you're going to price Tesla as a car company, it is incredibly overvalued. But when you build out your long-term models and you start adding in the new products and the potential markets for those, the numbers get honestly ridiculous. They seem like they're made up. So it's really a bit of an options play. If they can do these things, then they will be very successful. But if they can't, the price is probably too much. I think they're going to do it. They've done everything they set out to do. Elon's companies are always very successful. They're cutting edge. He pushes and pushes and pushes. Yes, he's probably a terrible boss, but you can't argue that the man gets the job done. Yes, his timelines are wrong, but I mean, any trader in the market should be comfortable being wrong with timelines. It's nothing new. That's why it's better to be in the market than waiting and all that stuff. So daily chart looks pretty good. We've got this little gap here. It's not a major gap, but Tesla really likes filling its gaps, as we've seen. So I expect we should make more of a push back up to the 250 range in short order, especially with RSI being neutral. The golden cross is starting to come together, but institutions are still holding on and pushing retail out and flows flat. So I don't know if this is necessarily going to close or re-expand. So we definitely have to wait to see about that one. And then if we take a look on the weekly, make it a bit easier to view. This volume shelf's pretty broad, so I think anywhere in these areas, this is going to be your support and this is going to be your resistance. And it's probably going to chop around in here. But as well as that, we've got all this confluence. These resistance levels come into a point, the bull market band. So I think when we pop out of here, we should have quite a decent move at some point. And then RSI is flat. Golden cross is pretty stable. Institutions are stable. There's no retail and flows kind of flat. So it's looking pretty bullish, pretty good. The volumes are sort of fading away, but not too much. They're still fairly good. So my thesis mainly for Tesla is an options play on if they can get bots, if they can get FSD. I'm mainly interested in energy, which seems to be the segment that's flying under everyone's radar. But I think as a standalone company, that's a very valuable company that got building there. It's very high margin. Lithium's still coming down. Very excited for this one, even though I think it's overvalued as a car company. It's more of an options play on what's coming. So 2025, I think, is going to be the Tesla boom year. Any price fluctuations this year on this one's probably either a bit of front running or a bit of fear. So it's mainly going to be for trading if you want to play it that way. But if you're a long-term investor, you want to be holding these to 2025. That's where all the action's going to be. Open options interest for Tesla short term, very crowded, lots of resistance areas, so price is probably going to stick with this as the resistance in the short term at about $233, sorry, and your downside's probably going to be at all of these levels, so 210, 200, 190. So people are picking out $10 increments on that. I think Tesla's going to continue to be volatile, so it's something to be aware of. If you're gonna, it's probably going to be really good to short-term trade this one, but it's not for me. It's very unpredictable. If I was going to short-term swing it, I would probably only go long, so I'd wait for a pullback and then enter long for a swing. Taking a look for the week after. Again, a lot of people seem very bullish for this date. I don't know what they're expecting. $300 is the resistance there. Seems quite high from where we are. That'd be a rather large move, but as you can see, there's just so much resistance and support here. It's just going to chop, 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 I think. Let's take a look another week out, just out of curiosity. All of a sudden, we're getting a lot more bullish. Resistance again is at 230, and support is pretty much every level. So taking a further look out to 2025. The expected move's quite large on this now. Bullish again, $300 there as resistance, and 200 is going to be resistance. So that's definitely something to watch. I think this is going to change as we move into the 2025 period. But if we look at 2026, targets are really starting to whack up. So it looks like Wall Street's probably pretty savvy on what they're expecting here. But it's always reassuring to know when Wall Street agrees with your plan. There's plenty of bearish sentiment here too. So, like I say, it's an options play. You're either betting Tesla can achieve these things, or you're betting that they're going to be a failure. And I know which side I'm choosing. Okay, so first off the bat, looking at the chart, we've got this little gap open here. I expect that to close in the near future. Price is still primarily being driven by the Bitcoin price. We'll take a look at the chart for that later on. We don't know really what's going to happen over the next few days with that. Normally we get a bit of a pop on a Sunday, but we'll look more at that in a minute. This gap here has filled. That was the one we were waiting to fill. I didn't think it would fill, to be fair, so I'm quite surprised it has because these prices are just silly. I'm actually thinking about adding more to this position just purely based on this being way too oversold. As you can see on the RSI, this has been oversold for quite some time, pretty much since this initial sell-off here. And we still do have an active death cross, although it looks like it wants to come together, and retail and institutions still holding their ground with the flow being flat. So, I mean, not the best looking chart. We could probably still draw a line here as a trend, but it's a bit wishy-washy. And another trend line here, a bit wishy-washy. But I think for the most part, we should be making a push back up to this bull market band in short order. Obviously, that depends on Bitcoin, but we'll take a look at that after. On the weekly, pretty much looking at kind of the same structures here. We've got the gap still pending to fill here. We're kind of now turning this volume shelf into support. Long term, definitely want to be getting above this volume shelf, as it's the whopper that we want to be above. But I mean, that would make a pretty good swing trade, which is kind of what I'm looking at, getting something in for about 17.96% return there. So I think I'll probably be taking that when the market opens on Monday. Get a little benefit from that, because this price to me is just ridiculous, especially with all the tailwinds that are coming for the crypto market, Bitcoin, whatever. I mean, a lot of them are really oversold at the moment. Solana as well, I'm pretty interested in taking some swing trades on. RSI is neutrally bearish, so not too bad there. And institutions still doing really well here. The golden cross is active but gathering. Not ideal, but not overly bearish really either. Flow's looking a bit negative, but not too much so. So to me, the price here is just being pulled down by what's happening with Bitcoin. We'll take a quick look at the options, but I haven't looked at them for a week, so I don't really know what to expect. So we'll check that out together. Okay, so the options for this coming week are actually looking pretty decent. We've got this kind of support here at 11.60.70, and that's pretty much what price is sitting at now. So I expect that level to be a good holding place, and then above that, this $15, which is going to be a good resistance. So yeah, a swing trade here is looking like a pretty good idea. So I'll probably be taking that. Although this doesn't mean it's going to be hitting that in the next week, but it's just really identifying key levels of interest. And then if we take a look out to the week after, pretty much people expecting the gap fill. So that's going to be resistance as well. So what we're seeing really is just a confirmation of the technical levels that we're looking at on the other chart, which is always nice to see, especially if you're going to be taking these short-term swing trades. I'm not going to look at the long-term dated trades on this one, just because the Bitcoin cycle might well be over by the time those come to expiration. It's possible they won't, because the cycle's running quite late, I think, this year. So look at those at your own risk, I think. Looking at the Bitcoin daily chart, this is looking really good. We're really confirming this golden Fibonacci level as support here, which is perfect. We popped back above it, got resisted on the bull market band. That's still a negative band at the moment, but the fact that we've not broken back below this is quite strong in my opinion. If we could grind around here and then flip this back into a bullish band, that would be excellent, and that would give us a nice base to reattempt this trend line here. We've been trying a long time to break that, and it's just not happening, but I think it's coming soon. When I say soon, I don't mean like today or tomorrow, probably in a month or so. But it's not as bearish as a lot of people were saying at the moment. I think it's a lot stronger than a lot of people are giving it credit for. Yes, the miners are getting a bit battered from this, but I think most of that's mainly creeping in from a lot of fear, and a lot of worry, because they are, in a way, a leverage trade is making people a lot more conscious of being risk on and risk off. So I think whilst Bitcoin kind of just grinds around in this area, I'm not expecting too many moves from the miners. Yes, there will be days when we have large moves up, but I expect them to fade just as quickly as they pop, as people take quick profits. But the main move hasn't come yet, and that's not going to come until Bitcoin makes a new high. So my plan with the miners that I'm holding is just kind of to capture these drops and take some short-term swings. I don't really want to play with my long-term positions on that, because I'm very happy with my sizing. But technically the RSI is neutral. We almost had a death cross, but it kind of faded it out. And institutions are holding and retail's getting pushed out a little bit. So I'm not too concerned about the MACDX Plus here, and flow is flat. So it's pretty indecisive still, I think. I think if we look at the weekly chart, that's going to show some indecision as well. But like we've talked about, a lot of this price action's been fear, especially with how earnings season's gone and the Japan carry trade unwinding. I think that's done now. I think the market, especially this buy and the QQQ, are starting to look like they want to confirm a bullish trend again. And the economic data that we've had last week was pretty supportive of that as well. So things look like they're stabilizing for the most part. So if you've got any cash set aside, I'd probably be considering deploying at least some of it right now. Personally, I think I'm going to make a larger deposit on the first of the month and hope that prices stay depressed until then, so I can really capture some of these short-term moves. Taking a look at the weekly chart for Bitcoin, I mean, you can't get a couple more indecisive candles than this. We had this great strong wick up. We've failed to make a new high over the last few weeks from that. That would have been a much more bullish move if we closed above where this previous candle had closed. But for the most part, this bull market band is acting as really good resistance. And then we're also trapped above the Goldman Fibonacci. It's a lot cleaner looking on the weekly. Not really too much more to say about this. I mean, it's pretty much bang in the middle of its trend. So you're either up or down from here. And I would expect it to make more of a bullish confirmation at some point. It's just a waiting game until that happens, unfortunately. And then RSI's flat. We're still loaded up with the whales here, which is excellent to see. So there's definitely strength there. Not really much of a coming together of the moving averages, which is excellent. And flow is kind of flat. So again, looks pretty bullish, really, but not ideally so. It's not going to be mega bullish until it gets above these volumes, but we can live and dream, I guess, is what I'm saying. Don't be panicking. It's not the end of the world just yet. If you found this video useful, feel free to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more content.
That's ISO. Rack it up, I got a better.